Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Victoria. I'm your host, and we have a special guest here today, Mr. Matt Kirby. Say hi, Matt.
Hey, everybody.
And in case you don't know
Howdy.
him, he is the creator of Apples to Apples. So we are thrilled. Thank you so much, Matt, for creating this amazing game.
Yay. It's always nice to hear stories of people playing it.
Oh yeah, it was. We've had many times where I have two brothers. Actually, I have a twin and a little brother, and we've played it a bunch. And I know that a lot of families love board games. Apples to Apples is very popular to be able to play with kids. Creating Apples to Apples. How did you create Apples to, or like what? Let me actually ask, what were you doing before Apples to Apples?
So yeah, I was an engineer in San Diego, just a regular kind of mechanical engineer. I got a regular mechanical engineering degree from University of California, San Diego, and I was
Wow.
working as a design engineer, essentially computer design engineer, and then so I really had more of a STEM background or whatever, right?
Yeah,
And
that's really
then
different.
yeah, well, but I came from my father was a pretty well known artist, and my mother was very artistic and a sort of a singer and whatever. So it was in my family, but I always definitely like mathematics and engineering or whatever, and so had that portion of life, at the same time. And then the game itself was we were sitting around for lunch at my in-laws' house, and I just wanted to have a conversation about who was a better writer, F. Scott
Oh.
Fitzgerald or Ernest Hemingway. And if you know the game, the red cards, you consider those the first two red cards. And in my house here that we created from the game, I do
Yeah.
have a I do have a little place of honor of those two gentlemen.
Aw.
Got a picture of both of them up on the wall there. So I said, "Who's a better writer, F. Scott Fitzgerald or Ernest Hemingway?" And just thought about it for a second, and I, abstracted the words "better" and the word and the two writers, and
Yeah,
then I
what does
said,
it mean to be better? Yeah.
"Right." So in my mind, like immediately afterwards, I'm thinking, "Okay, well, who's better, Ernest Hemingway or Mark Twain?" And then wait a minute, who's better, Mark Twain or Richard Nixon? So I just, no one said anything. Like the answer to the question was almost irrelevant because I was engaged, for the next time, whatever amount of time, thinking about it.
Creating, yeah.
Yeah. And so then I just proceeded to make a list. I'm a big list maker. That's my
Oh, I love
engineering part of
lists.
me. So I just downloaded the universe into this huge list of all these the first red cards, and then of course the adjectives, and so back today we have the thing called FedEx, Kinkos, or just FedEx.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was just Kinkos,
Yeah.
and I pretty much lived there in San Diego, and
Oh,
would
yeah.
just be making these mock-ups of. I turned it into a board game. Now people don't know that it was originally actually a board game with kind of
No.
complicated. Yeah, it was kind of typically
I want to see the
engineering.
board game.
Yeah, no, I've got it. There's a few actually. Jim, as our mutual friend, has one. Um, so I made like 8 prototypes and just spent 2 years going over this over and over this because games you can change the rules forever,
Yeah.
sort of like a story or something. Like when is it over?
You got
So
various like variations too.
yep. So I spent 2 years, and I knew it was something good because every time we would test with people, they would just laugh.
Nice.
Like you didn't have to. I didn't have to force them to do it or whatever. They just started laughing when they started
Aw.
playing, even though I invented it in more of a kind of a philosophical way, right?
Yeah.
But I definitely knew that there was a viable product. So anyway, I spent 2 years and actually entered some contests and
Oh.
sent out to manufacturers and got the requisite rejections,
Aw.
and not too many though, actually, probably about 10 to 20, and then went to a show, and basically I had my prototype on my arm and my blue suit, and I said, all I can say is, like, I'm not going to try to convince you. Is like, can you just play it? And lo and behold, they did, and we played in the lobby. They played it for hours and finally said,
Oh.
we like this, but we want to get rid of everything
Well, there
but
you
the
go.
cards, all of the stuff that I've been agonizing over. And it was, and they said, "Are you cool with that?" And it was like that was the big moment. And for me, it was like, I just want my baby to live. Like, it doesn't have to be in a board game,
And that's
whatever.
so interesting that it kind of came back around to that list that you originally made.
Right.
That it was
Yeah. It
that
was
was
just
that
the
golden
fun of the
nugget.
game was just the cards.
Speaking my language. And a lot of people do have that creative. I also love that like you came from this very STEM science engineering background,
Right.
and because a lot of times we think, oh, someone is this type of person and that's the box that they get to be in, and you're like, wait a minute, but like what if they want to do something that is like the exact opposite, or something different, and you went and you took this analytical background, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna like do your list thing, but it's about this
Right.
whole creativity and inspiring that. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Definitely the STEM part of me was the organizer.
I mean,
The
and hey,
engineer.
ideas without
Yeah.
organization don't.
Right. Exactly.
Awesome. So we're going to be talking about. You're going to be telling us a little bit about the your top 5 tools for creativity or inspiring creativity in kids, right?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
And so, what inspired you on the idea to even talk about this subject? Why are you talking about creativity at all?
Well, I've always been doing it and I've always been attracted to it. And since Apples to Apples kind of launched me on my own solo career, it's sort of a takeoff on. I started talking to my friends who were teachers who'd say, come on in, talk to class about Apples to Apples. And it turned into kind of a seminar. I kind of formalized it. And then just the concept of creativity in general has always attracted me as far as how do you make the insights and history is really about ideas. So where do these ideas come from?
Yeah. So that's awesome. That so now it's turned into like a real formal talk. You said, are you doing a talk on creativity anywhere?
Yeah, so I'm working with Moxie Box, my friend Jim Warner, and we're doing the homeschool circuit where I do a little more recipe-based tools of creativity for homeschool parents to try to get their kids to follow down that path a little bit. So yeah, it has sort of changed a little bit over time. Well, there's a total of 12, but I think for brevity,
Yeah,
I
let's
think
only
we'll
stick
talk
with
about
5. I like that idea
5.
you
Yeah,
had. That's great.
yeah. When I was making this ready for the presentation, it was like I thought about it, and I could come up with 12, and then it was like that's it. That's all I can do is 12. And but these 12 were like I have to have all 12, even though that's a lot. But I couldn't not talk about it. But the ones we're going to talk about are 5. I think are more particularly useful, or
Cool. So that's like
yeah,
the 5 essential. I'm sorry, the 12 essential tools for creativity. And today we're going to only talk about like just 5 of them. So I think that's
yeah,
manageable.
yeah. I think that's a better way to put it. I don't want to short one or over the other. It's just easier to talk about 5.
Yeah.
So we'll pick out 5 that are kind of obvious and kind of talk about those.
Great. So, what would you say is your top tool, or the first tool you want to talk about as far as like inspiring creativity with children?
Yeah. So in no particular order here, but certainly observation and curiosity have to be in that. Just the idea of being observant around you. It's one of the easier things to do, to put down the phone and look around, and just you don't have to do anything but just shut up, sit there, and what do you see? It's just amazing how oblivious society is, and certainly technology is not helping that. But
Well, we've got a lot of things distracting us, cell
yeah,
phones, and absolutely. And I think it's really interesting that you're saying like being observant and facilitating that with curiosity, because kids are naturally curious and they're also super observant. Like sometimes to the point of like, please don't.
right.
But as
Well, that's because
adults,
they haven't learned the filter yet. You have to
yeah, exactly.
you don't have time for it all the time, and so
Yeah, we have to learn how to
that's just a
filter
natural
out.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we tend to lose that ability to be as observant as we'd like to be, and as much as we'd like to encourage our children to be that observant. Because heaven knows,
Right. It's also, yeah, I would say a lot of this stuff is like a muscle, right?
oh
So
yeah,
it's atrophied. It's not like everybody can certainly use their 5 senses to garner what's going on. It's just that we don't, some people do it more naturally without even thinking about it, right?
yes,
And if you're on your phone all the time or, checking something or whatever, then it's literally impossible. But if you're more just, in your life where you just made it so you're observing things, it's easier.
Absolutely, and that is also it's absolutely key to be observant and to have that desire to look for answers if you're trying to come up with an answer, or like you did when you're trying to
Right.
invent something. Like we both created our product, so you have to be looking for ideas like all the time. So that's
Yeah, there's
amazing.
sort of two sides of the same coin of observing and then being curious.
Yes, I
One leads to the other, and they're and so you start off with observing, and then when you get to observing, then you're naturally going to ask questions to yourself,
yes,
and then you
exactly.
right, and then you go down that road, and then you try to find, like you said, try to find the answers. So the one sort of exercise is to observe, and then this is where things like journaling comes in, if
Oh
you want,
yeah, that's
right?
great.
So if you have the idea in your head, oh, I wonder what that wall was built there for. What is that bird doing? Well, if you
Yes.
don't write it down, probably, or somehow, everybody's got a different way. So that's kind of your output, is to try to start to do some kind of journaling stuff.
That's actually really interesting because so I'm actually reading a book right now. I'm not going to say which one because it will be a future podcast episode. But it was asking you what is the reason that you're doing this, which is this thing that is the main crux of the book, and it actually has an entire chapter dedicated to helping you answer why are you doing this, because if you don't know why, if you're not asking those questions, you're not going to really learn the underlying root of whatever it is that you're asking the question about. So being able to be curious, I keep hitting my glass here, to be able to be curious is very important to facilitate that curiosity in kids, because I do know that sometimes parents, we're trying to get about our day, we're rushing around, and it's hard because we don't want to sit there and answer all the questions that our kids ask.
Right.
So
And especially when they keep going, they keep, drilling down levels of why. Why is the sky blue? Well,
yes,
because of this. Why? And then and then at some point, like you don't even, there's no more answer. It's just the way
exactly.
it is, or whatever. Actually, there's some funny stand-up routines on that. Like at some point, it's like, because something either is or it isn't, but
Yes.
get used to that and do that for yourself. Like keep asking yourself why.
Yeah, I think it's probably also very helpful for parents as well, because then sometimes we get in a routine and you get stuck doing something the same way, and you kind of get stuck in that mode that this is the way it's done. For example, I used to, when I set up some of my uh, event tables, I would always tie my banners up to the poles with string, and it was really difficult for me because I'm 5'2". And I had a friend come along and they were like, "Why don't you use like hooks or like a zip tie? They make those." And I was like, "I never thought of that."
Right. Right.
Because I just got into the habit of doing
Right.
it that way and no
Yep.
one ever questioned it.
Yeah. It's
So,
hard to get out of your own head,
yeah.
right? I mean, that's one thing about apples to apples, which is so cool. Is not that I designed it that way, but it just is it forces you to get out of your own head. You got to think about what the judge would do, what
Absolutely.
somebody else, not what you think, but what is somebody else thinking. And that's like huge in society, that we don't just limit our thoughts to our own, worldview.
Exactly. So one of the ways that I know that you had spoken when we've spoken about this before was that in a way to get out of that rut is to kind of just relax and just have fun with things, to kind of play, if you will. And so I did want to ask you about that, as to how that play is not just trying to facilitate curiosity by encourage asking questions, but actually actively engaging with the kids, and how that works into inspiring creativity.
Yeah, well, play is like absolutely crucial to any kind of creativity, and it's kind of important to now kids. I'm talking to the adults as much as I'm talking to kids. And with kids, you don't have to explain what play is. They just know
Yeah.
it, right? Again, and with adults or something, when you hear play, think of agendaless fun,
Oh, I
right? So
like that.
what's fun for you? Could be a million, could be everybody. When you get older, you start going in different directions. Things
Yeah.
you appeal to you, and whatever that could be, whatever that fun is, just do that, and don't consider the ramifications. Don't consider an agenda. It's just agendaless fun. Just have some fun, and then see what happens. And this is sort of it's almost, so much of the stuff is part of life. It's not just about creativity, but it's, you could turn this into a whole self-help thing.
Yeah.
And it's a way to live, essentially, to be more in the moment and more just enjoy what makes you happy in life. Right?
That's so important to just be able to just do, because again, back to that, we make these routines for ourselves. And that's something I've been working on personally myself this past year, which was to just stop working and have fun and just do something just for the sake of doing it instead of trying to be productive.
Yeah, and it's hard to do in today's, this in this society that we've built, where the work ethic is so hard, and especially somebody like yourself, because you're such a busy entrepreneur, and there's like there's never there is no downtime for you, and so it's particularly hard for you, but anybody, to give yourself the license, right? It's to step out of your world for a while and give yourself a license to do whatever you want to do. But oftentimes, fun is a great one to do.
That's
right?
Awesome. Yeah, exactly.
And the results you get.
Yeah.
You could say that I created Apples to Apples from fun. I just had a conversation because I wanted to have it, and the way that it just quickly turned into this format for this game, which again I did not invent. To say I'm going to make this game that does all this stuff, that's not what happened. You could say I had fun, which for me was asking who's a better writer, Scott Fitzgerald or Hemingway. That was fun to me, right? Because I'm some nerd, right? So that's that's my fun. And from that, agendaless fun turned into a product. You can't not estimate how important play is and fun.
That's awesome. Now, and you notice you did say, either versus creating versus inventing, a little bit about, the comings of Apples to Apples. And one thing I know we talked about, which it's really funny how many things have just become, as you said, like you created Apples to Apples, but it came from play, and you were just trying to just have some fun, which, I mean, in today's age, to sit down and just try to make a time to do something just for the sake of doing it, it really is, you need that downtime. And that's how you came about with Apples to Apples. So in playing, you invented this game, and so I think that's really important, because like you said, it's so important to inspire that ability, because next thing you know, they're going to invent something.
Right. And you could say also it's going back to the last tool, it's a product of observing. Like, so if I hadn't observed, hey, what did I just say? What did I just do? Then, it wouldn't have been used. And, maybe I would have done it on some other time or whatever. Right. But it just shows you how important the different tools are when you don't have an agenda. And ultimately there's one tool that I don't need to talk about other more and say the word is passion, right? Passion works for everything. Right. And that's kind of what we're talking about as well. Like, you have fun. When you have fun, you're engaged in a passion, right?
Yes, absolutely. Passion is so important. I think, particularly, speaking as someone who's created something, and for me, someone who's, I wrote my curriculum, and I'm an entrepreneur, and of course we both know Jim, and especially with entrepreneurs, if you're inspiring, trying to get children to either be an entrepreneur or to even just get up and do something, because sometimes that is hard to just do something. Having it be something they're passionate about is so important, because
people don't. Some people that don't know about entrepreneurs like you, and there's a lot. And Jim, is the point is not really the product. The point is the process. Yes. So when you get big, and you will, and Money Munchkin sells to NBC, Financial Network or whatever, right? You're gonna get right back into the process, because it's the process is where you get the passion, and that's what you can. With kids, you can shortcut that as fun, right? What is it you like to do, and then later you can start thinking about applying things. But when you're in the river of passion, there really isn't anything better, right? You could say a love affair is passion. There's many ways to identify with this crucial element of what life is supposed to be about.
Exactly. And I do want to make sure we cover this other one that you had mentioned, this other tool of creativity here, which is, I think, the thing that's possibly, in my opinion, the most important, because I do see a lot of parents have trouble with this, which is that combined and connect is learning how to connect all of these facets. So,
right.
I mean, what if you can give like an idea of
sure.
why that is, and how
That's probably one of the easiest ways to do it. And the way that I talk about it in some of my talks and things is just, or even like take an apples to apples game, say, right? So you have the red cards, which are just stuff, right? Nouns. Just flip up a few of those and put them on the table and look what you got. Oh, I got a Corvette. I've got hair. I've got sneezing. Can you make those into a product, right?
Yeah, that's
right?
awesome.
You're taking things that exist and then putting them together. They can be simple. It could be, a fork and a spoon, and now you got a fork.
Yeah, that's
right?
awesome.
Or and it's been done, but there's a million things that you just meld together. Think about them, and you've got a new product. And you can do that also in the arts world too, where you take one concept, and then this is happening very much in conceptual art, where they take one idea that's totally disparate and put it together with something that's totally real, and this weird reality forms out of this thing. So it's very easy just to literally write down things in your life. My car, my 401k, talking about money, my whatever, my bank account or whatever, and just lay them out and 3x5 cards, and then just start looking at how does this connect to this. It's as simple as that. And kids can obviously do that with their world too.
I would love that. In fact, if obviously we put our this podcast out on a variety of platforms, one of which is YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, do us a favor, grab 3 or 4 if you have apples to apples of your apples to apples cards, the red cards, and lay them out and tell us what they are in the comments and how you connected, create that product, just like Matt was talking about, because that would be fantastic to hear from everybody from and see what they get and what their kids do.
That'd be cool. You could start a whole company from just all the products that everybody throws together, right?
Exactly. And just seeing that the ability to connect and combine with that aspect of play and curiosity and creativity. Yeah. So you had this amazing career. You've created an amazing game, and now what are you doing now? Are you doing anything? Are you creating a new game, or are you still being creative?
Well, yeah. So the creative thing is just something that happens. Definitely not a problem there. I have my own weird website that people can go to if they want to try to figure it out. It's called Entropy Nation.
Okay.
ENTROPYNATION, and it has online games and information and stuff that I put on there. And actually, I think I have a link to my homeschoolers on there too. I'm gonna put on there.
Awesome.
Well, that's gonna get it.
We're gonna put that information in the show notes, and if you're on YouTube, it'll be in the doobly-doo below. So put that up on, and it's entropynation.com.
Yeah, that's it.
.com.
Yeah, check it out. It's weird, just like me. Definitely not a mainstream product there, but it's stuff
eccentric. that's what you get called once you made it. You're not weird. You're eccentric.
That's it. There's one link on there to a thing called Decades Matrix, which I'm particularly proud of, which deconstructs the 20th century for all the different elements of society, arts, sciences, music, things like this. And every year, and it connects the elements too. So for a homeschooler can learn how does a Barbie doll, which was put out in the market in 1955, what does that have to do with the end of the war in 1945? Well, it's because all the soldiers coming home and the families are starting. Now they need products for these people. It's a way of understanding history. I've always been an amateur historian. Loving, because it's it's always about ideas. So that's something on there to look for. If you go to that site, go try to find Decades Matrix,
awesome.
and check it out.
Happening, or should they just on
on Moxiebox's site, they're moxiebox.com, MOXIEBOX. There is they just added, it's called Kirby Corner at the top menu.
Oh, I love it.
And they're going to put all of my stuff along with some resources I think that the parents could use for kids to be creative.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's going to go on there too. So we're just kind of starting this right now, but the Moxiebox for sure will have documentation on, and we'll also hopefully have the entire presentation too. So people could just look at it on their own.
Fantastic. That's great. great. So you're working on getting up the actual speech and presentation up there as well.
The slides, yeah, there's like 100 slides in a
Oh wow.
presentation, so they can, and then there's a whole set of them that does some, exercises to practice because you really need to practice, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, this a lot of this stuff might come very intuitively for kids, but for us adults, it's a little like we said, it's hard to get out of that rut a little bit. So great. So moxiebox.com, and you're gonna have your own section in there called Kirby Corner. And not only can they find what you're talking, but also like those resources you were talking about. That's awesome.
Right. Moxiebox wants to try to be sort of your kid's creative consultant.
Oh, that's so cool.
Right. So it's not about Moxiebox right now. Obviously, it's about the visual arts, but it's we want to, and down the road we want to look at getting involved in innovation or something STEM, or because creativity is not limited to anything.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, I love that, and I love that about Moxie Box, and I love that about Jim is that just it's the same reason I'm doing my podcast is I'm not just trying to sell a product, they're not just trying to sell an art subscription. They really want to help cultivate this community of creativity, of inspiration, of education, and it's
That's the passion right there.
yeah, right there, right. We're
That's
going
the
back to
agenda.
that.
We don't. The agenda is not. Oh, we're gonna. Got to make this third quarter target or whatever. The agenda is: can we engage in discovering his passion with families? Like, what better thing can you get than that?
Exactly. And there's such, I know the homeschool community is really active, and they love creating that community. And I think people in general, especially when it comes to creating a creative community, it's very inspiring. And actually, Matt, I don't know if I've told you, I recently got on TikTok. And
Oh,
yeah.
oh,
So I have not created an OC character in literally probably 6 years, and because I was on this community of creatives, I got inspired and created an OC character.
what's an O? I don't even know what that is.
Oh,
Well,
original
what's
character.
an OC character?
Like I'm saying basically I'm saying original character. So
Okay,
creating an original character to do some play fun videos with. And Money Munch Kids has our own TikTok now too, by the way. But yeah, when you
I'll
have
check
this,
it out.
it's really cool. We only have 2 videos so far on Money Munch Kids, but it is really great to have that community. And like you said, you can go and check them out on moxiebox.com, the Kirby Corner, where they're going to help you facilitate creating a creative community for your child. So thanks so much for joining us, Matt.
Thank you so much for having me, Victoria. I appreciate it, and I'd love to talk again sometime.